Last week in predictions, I looked like Zach Wilson. This week, I looked like Jimmy Garoppolo. Like, okay. I mean, definitely not as good looking, but... Grossi Packer Nation. Welcome to another episode of Packcast, the podcast where you don't have to be a Packers fan, but it sure does help. I'm your host, Tom. Just wait, everybody. Coming for that W in the Pick'em Leagues, Grossi, and today we're going to be jumping into Week 3 predictions. Last week, I started off 8-8, and now I improved to 19-13 with a record of 11-5 last week, which means I am in 1,606th place in the Pick'em League because there's over 7,500 of you in there. So, still not great. And also, I want to do a big shout out to Anderson, who is currently leading the Pick'em League with a record of 26-6. There's a bunch of folks that are just below Anderson, and they're looking to catch up. But Anderson having himself a good 2 weeks, so congratulations to you. And with that, let's get into it. Starting off with the Thursday night game, you got the Carolina Panthers taking on the Houston Texans. The Carolina Panthers, they demolished the Saints in week 2, and oh boy, their defense is looking real good. Now, the quality of their opponents has not been so great in the Jets and then the Saints, and who were a little beaten up, but the Panthers are starting to turn some heads, especially for Brandon Perna, who put them in number 1 in the power ranking, but that's neither here nor there. The Texans, I think, have been outplaying a lot of people's expectations, lost a closely contested matchup to the Cleveland Browns, and one could argue that's only because Tyrod Taylor got hurt. Unfortunately, they're going to be going with Davis Mills to start this game, which is the not ideal situation. And they asked Deshaun Watson, "Hey, bud, you playing?" And he's like, "Nope." And they're like, "Okay, thanks for coming down here." Oh, God, love the media hellstorm that you have put us through. So this is most definitely a mismatchup. I think the Panthers should be able to take this game easily. You look at Christian McCaffrey to perform, Sam Darnold, who had a pretty damn good week 2. Yeah, I think the Panthers should be able to get the W here. Throwing a flag on our next play, you got the LA Chargers taking on the Kansas City Chiefs. Both teams sitting in the basement of the AFC West. The Chargers losing a last-second field goal to the Dallas Cowboys. But oh boy, they lost limbs in that game as they continuously shot themselves in the foot 12 times, 12 flags in a horrific game. Justin Herbert threw a costly interception, lost to the Cowboys. The Chiefs, Patrick Mahomes losing his first game in September, throwing his first pick in September, losing to the Baltimore Ravens, who clawed on back. So maybe the sky's falling a little bit in Kansas City, even though it's only been one game. But this is the first time in 5 years that they have not had a division lead in the AFC West. So that's a little scary. Their defense is a little sus right now. A little sus. This should actually be a real good game, though. I think this is going to be highly competitive. I like that it is an Arrowhead. I think the Chiefs should be able to get the win here. But if they lose, oh boy, things are going to get ugly in KC. Next, you have a battle of natural enemies. You have the Cardinals versus the Jaguars, because cats, they go after birds. That's what Tweety bird. I learned that as a kid. Though I also saw this post on Reddit that like Jaguars can like go after caimans and they like eat them in the water. I know the team isn't, but like real life Jaguars are scary. The Cardinals pulling off a win against the Minnesota Vikings due to their lack of field goal kicking ability and also extra point kicking ability in a game that didn't look the best. The Cardinals came in week 1 and destroyed the Titans. Their defense really didn't look so hot in week 2. Kyler Murray made some costly mistakes, but then also threw for over 400 yards and basically won them the game. The Jaguars, a little bit closer against the Broncos. It wasn't a blowout, but the Jaguars are not a good football team. Urban Meyer putting out inspirational live, laugh, and love posts on Twitter and being like, we're gonna get through this. We're gonna get better. Oh, USC called? Never mind. I imagine that the Jaguars are gonna continue their losing streak here. The Cardinals should be able to win this game. Kyler Murray probably gonna have himself a damn good game once again. Following that, you got the Bears taking on the Browns. The Bears able to win against the Cincinnati Bengals, and you would have thought that they won the Super Bowl because the amount of Bears fans that were in my comments going, we're leading the division. It was plentiful. Andy Dalton injured. I know they're taking him day by day, but Matt Nagy coming out and being like, he's our starter, damn it. Justin, sit the hell down and grab a clipboard. And Justin Fields just like, why? Can I get traded somewhere, please? The Bears defense looking pretty darn good. Again, against the Bengals, not really saying a whole lot, but listen, honey, whatever gets you through the day. And the Browns, again, we just talked about them. They lost a close game to the Chiefs in week 1 and a little bit of a closer game in week 2 against the Texans. This should actually be a pretty close game. I don't believe in really the offense of the Chicago Bears here. I think they're going to have a much harder time with a quality opponent like the Browns. But the Browns, I think they need some confidence back. Might struggle a little bit in the run game. But here, I am going to go with the Browns, mostly out of spite. But I do think that they are the more talented football team. And they definitely have a much better offense. Wildflowering our way into the next game, you got the Washington Wildflowers taking on Frederick and the Buffalo Bills. Washington, in an amazing game against the New York Giants. You had Taylor Heineke coming out, slinging the ball, threw a really bad pick, but then slinging the ball. Scary Terry's like, I don't care who my QB is, I'm just going to catch it, what have you. Their defense is not as good, I want to say, that in the past 2 games, and it was last season. Again, small sample size, but yeah, their defense is leaving a lot to be desired. Taking on the Bills, who just shut out the Miami Dolphins 35-0. Their offense has been sputtering a little bit. I don't know how well they're going to do against this Washington defense, but again, the defense continues to struggle. Maybe this is where Josh Allen finds his footing, but this defense should be able to shut down Heineke. I think it might be a little bit of a lower scoring game, but I am going to take the Buffalo Bills here to get the W. Sorry, Wildflower. Hopefully not spraining both my ankles into our next game. You got the Indianapolis Colts taking on the Tennessee Titans. The Colts fighting tough after losing a bad week 1 game against the Seahawks. Really kind of clawed back a little bit, and then Carson Wentz got hurt against the Rams, even though they definitely did benefit from a blocked punt, but that's neither here nor there. The Colts, I think, are a quality football team. Jonathan Taylor really hasn't been able to get it going, though he has been playing against good defenses. Taking on the Titans, who were able to pull off a miraculous overtime victory against the Seattle Seahawks, the team that beat the Colts in week 1. This should be a real good game. You got an AFC South battle. You got this matchup of probably both teams who are going to be vying for a playoff spot and that division title, because let's be honest, the Texans aren't really going to be there, and the Jaguars, well, yeah, like I said before, the animal's really scary, but the team not so much. The problem, of course, is Carson Wentz's injury, and so I think that is going to definitely impact the Colts in a negative way. Eason, I'm not really completely sold on you, so I am going to give the slight edge to the Tennessee Titans. If King Henry can come out and just dismantle the Colts like he did to the Seahawks last week, the Titans should be just fine. Following that, you got the New Orleans Saints taking on the New England Patriots. The Patriots making Zach Wilson just have a no good, horrible, very bad day with 4 interceptions. Bill Belichick looked at that young man and was like, I am going to ruin your life. And so, yeah, they easily took down the Jets. Mac Jones, pretty darn efficient. Let's look at the Saints. The Saints, After a dominant Week 1 performance against the Green Bay Packers, they got dominated by the Carolina Panthers. Alvin Kamara held to single digits because the time of possession was so out of whack in that first half. Famous Jameis came back as the Panthers continuously put on pressure on the QB, and it was pretty ugly. Will the Saints be able to bounce back? I think it's going to be a little bit closer. I know they're banged up right now. I'm going to give the slight edge to the Patriots just because that defense is so good. Mac Jones is playing pretty well, so I am going to give it to the Patriots, but let's be honest, folks, we don't really care about this NFC South versus the Patriots matchup this week. No, we care about the one that's coming the following week when Tom Brady comes back to Foxborough. Then this is a game that's happening. You have the Atlanta Falcons taking on the New Jersey Giants. The Falcons attempting a comeback against Tom Brady and the Buccaneers, and they had it for like a hot second, and then the 2 pick sixes kind of really sunk that. Their offense didn't look too terrible, but yeah, there's lots of questions about Matt Ryan right now. And then, of course, you have the Giants, who offsides their way out of a victory, and yeah, they don't look good. Saquon Barkley really can't get it going. However, this is the first time that they're not playing a pretty damn good defense. And so maybe Saquon gets it going here. Daniel Jones was the leading rusher and looked really good against the Washington football team. So maybe Daniel Jones has some runs here. I'm actually gonna, oh God, this is tough. This one's a toss-up. I want to pick the Falcons. I think their offense is more explosive, but you know what? I'm going to go on a limb here, and I'm actually going to go with the Giants. I know I should never pick the Giants for anything, but yeah, this doesn't feel good. I'm going to probably lose this one, but I'm going to stick with it. I'm going to go with the Giants. I'm not confident. Meowing our way into our next game, you got the Kitty Goes Meow Cincinnati Bengals taking on the Pittsburgh Steelers. Both teams suffering a loss last week. Joe Burrow with some ugly, ugly interceptions. The Bengals are teams that are still struggling to find themselves. Meanwhile, the Steelers, they found themselves just in a hole. Their offense is not good. Najee Harris had a really nice stiff arm, but his offensive line's not doing a whole lot of blocking for him. And Ben Roethlisberger, yeah, he doesn't look good at all. Of course, the Steelers' defense is still really good, and I don't discount that, but the Steelers, they need to win this game. The Bengals were able to beat them last year. I think the Steelers should take this. TJ Watt apparently is day-to-day, has an opportunity to play on Sunday, and I think the Steelers will bounce back a little bit. What does that mean for the overall season? I don't know, but I would hope that you're able to beat at least the Bengals. Cawing into our next game, you got the Baltimore Ravens taking on the Detroit Lions. The Ravens with an amazing victory on Sunday Night Football against the Chiefs with Lamar Jackson throwing 2 terrible picks and then saying, oh wait, never mind, I could just run on them. And he did for over 100 yards and 2 touchdowns. Their defense stepped up because in the beginning it looked like this was going to be a shootout, and then they wound up holding Patrick Mahomes at least a little bit, as much as you possibly can. The Lions playing a really competitive game with the Packers in the first half. Then they got away from the run game completely, and things kind of fell apart. Didn't really do anything in the second half. The Lions, they're not a god-awful football team, don't get me wrong, but they are a lot worse than the Ravens. I think the Ravens should be able to go into Ford Field and do whatever they have to do. Sorry, Lions. You also have a terrible schedule this year. Then, time for the third easy opponent this year. You got the Jersey Jets taking on the Denver Broncos. The Jets, we talked about what a dumpster fire they are. We don't need to talk about them anymore. No one else in New York is. Taking on the Broncos, who are riding high at 2-0 and leading the AFC West with the Raiders, and that totally hasn't gone to their head at all. At all. The Broncos, yeah, they need to beat the Jets. It's at home. The Jets are a bad football team. Zach Wilson coming off a 4-interception performance. Things have to go very, very wrong for the Broncos to lose this game. As Brandon Perna said, look for the run game to be back here. I'm going to go with the Denver Broncos getting the W, and Thunder will be happy. Following that, you got the Miami Dolphins, who just got shut out 35-0, and Tua is not playing due to fractured ribs, taking on the Vegas Raiders, who, look at them, are sitting at 2-0 after a miracle on Monday night. They then beat the Steelers, shutting them out for 2 quarters, and the Raiders all of a sudden are getting talked about a little bit more. Their defense is locking it down for the most part. Crosby playing pretty damn well. Josh Jacobs, that not being in, that kind of hurts a bit, but Carr doing pretty well, leading the league in yards, throwing it all over the place, looking pretty snazzy. The Dolphins have a good defense, so I think it won't be as easy to throw on. But then again, the Steelers also have a really good one. I think the Raiders will wind up taking this game, especially with a lack of Tua. So Raiders 3-0, Broncos 3-0. And the Chiefs and Chargers remain below them, just like everyone predicted. Moving on, we got the Tampa Bay Buccaneers taking on the LA Rams. One of the most enticing matchups of the week here. The Buccaneers, as we talked about, Tom Brady had 5 touchdowns, Gronk 2 touchdowns again after having it in week 1. Looking pretty damn good on offense. Gave up a couple of sacks. Their defense, their run D still good, but their pass defense, not really so great, giving up a lot of yards. First to the Cowboys, and then, of course, to the Atlanta Falcons and Matt Ryan. The Rams, a close game. Close game against the Indianapolis Colts. Matthew Stafford didn't really look so hot last week, but Cooper Kupp crushing it once again. This is going to be a really interesting game. I want to give this to the Rams. I think Matthew Stafford is going to have some success. I think you do have the Rams D-line is going to get after Tom Brady, but I'm still going to go with the Tampa Bay Buccaneers here. Even though they have no run game whatsoever, I still think that the Buccaneers have enough offensive firepower to get it done, and look for the Buccaneers defense to maybe step it up a little bit, put some more pressure on Matthew Stafford. So I'm actually going to go with the Bucs here, even though I do not want them to win. Then a couple of heartbreaking losses into our next game. You got the Seattle Seahawks versus the Minnesota Vikings. Heartbreak city for both of them. The Seahawks losing in overtime, the Vikings losing at the end of regular time due to a missed field goal. It's always fun when the Seahawks and Vikings play each other. The Vikings usually going to visit the Seahawks, but it's actually reversed this time. Kirk Cousins actually looking pretty darn good in that game, and then the offense kind of slowed down a whole bit against the Arizona Cardinals. While the Seahawks, they were doing really well, then they took their foot off the gas, and then the defense started to struggle. So yikes. Both teams definitely need the W right now. The Seahawks, they're 1-1, but they're also sitting at the bottom of the NFC West, and everyone's making fun of them because they're the only team to have a loss there. Meanwhile, the Vikings are at 0-2, hanging out with the Lions, and that's not really great company to keep. The Vikings, I think, will make this a competitive game, but look for Russell Wilson and Tyler Lockett to tear apart that secondary, and I'll tell you, the Seahawks take this. The Vikings go 0-3, and a smile forms across my face. Then the Sunday night football matchup, which makes every single Packers fan squirm. The Packers offense came back full force in that second half. Aaron Jones in the game, 4 touchdowns. Aaron Rodgers, 4 touchdowns. Defense was god-awful in the first half. They were bad. No pass rush whatsoever. Kevin King doing Kevin King things. Adjusted in the second half, looked a lot better. Really prevented the Lions from doing anything. The 49ers, 2-0. Underwhelming, though. Almost blew it to the Lions in week 1. Had a real close game with the Eagles in week 2. Lack of pass rush is a little concerning. Jimmy G is just fine. They have no more running backs. Let's be honest, folks. The 49ers are going to make this tough. The 49ers have beaten the Packers 6 of the last 9 times that they have met. However, because I am not going to pick against the Packers, I'm going to go with the Packers. So yeah, even though logic and rationale may escape me, Packers. I'm super confident in that. And finally, the Monday Night Football matchup. You got the Philadelphia Eagles taking on the Dallas Cowboys. The Eagles losing a close, ugly game against the 49ers, while the Cowboys eking out a win against the LA Chargers. The Cowboys so close to starting 0-2, and this would have made 0-3, and Scooter Magruder would have lost his bet, and everything would have been fine with the world. Literally, we would have had world peace, but no, we can't have that. The Cowboys back at home, taking on a division rival. I think Jalen Hurts is going to have potential to run all over this Cowboys team. I really hope the Eagles get the win. The Cowboys, they got enough offensive firepower to make it happen. So many threats. Zeke, not really looking great. Pollard is outplaying Zeke right now. Going up against an Eagles front, which shows up sometimes, other times not so much. I was going to pick the Cowboys, but I'm actually going to go with the Eagles here. A lot of it's going to be out of spite, but I think the Eagles might be able to take the W here. I'm not super confident in that because I think the Cowboys do have a better football team, but look for Jalen Hurts to potentially make some magic happen. But let me know what you think down in the comments below. How do you feel about these week 3 games? How are they going to shape up? How you doing in the Pick'em League? let me know. You can always send me at TomGrossiComedy.com or at TomGrossiComedy and also should be see down below. Check out podcasts on SoundCloud, iTunes, Google Play Music, Spotify, and of course YouTube. And a big shout and thank you to all the patrons over at patreon.com/TomGrossiComedy and the YouTube members. But thank you so much for watching. I'm Tom Grossi. And as always, go Pack Go.